Good morning, everybody. We are live here from the birdhouse, and we've got a very exciting birding update for you. We have been kind of talking about the different winter finches that could possibly come into the area this year. We rebroadcast our live stream with Matt Young on Tuesday, and he had some predictions on what might happen with the winter finches. And the good news is they're starting to come into our area, which is really exciting. So we've got an update about what's coming in and where, how you can best attract them to your backyard, and some other birds that you might be on the lookout for too, depending on where you live. As always, we love to know what kind of things you're seeing. If you have any questions, you can put those in the comments, or you can just say hi also. But yeah, we'll get started on some of these winter finches and winter birds. As we're getting into the colder months, they just kind of get all looped or grouped into this one group that is called the winter finches. To begin, the best setup that you can have in your backyard if you are feeding birds or trying to attract birds, it's going to be similar to what you would want to do other times of the year. You want to provide food, water, and shelter. So water, as it starts getting cooler, your best bet to provide water is having some kind of a heated bird bath or bird bath with a heater inside of it. As far as shelter goes, there are roosting pockets and roosting houses, but then feeders are also what will bring in some of these winter finches and these winter migrant birds. So you want to make sure you've got all your bases covered. Something with sunflower seed in it or a sunflower seed mix, or safflower is going to be good for those evening grosbeaks, pine grosbeaks, purple finches. So something with a lot of perching room that has black oil sunflower seed in it or safflower seed in it is a must. And absolutely, you want to put out your Niger feeders now. And I'll show you why, because these little birdies that are behind me, the red poles, are starting to really roll through, and they come to the Niger feeders. So definitely put your Niger feeders out if you don't have them out already. And as it gets cooler, birds need the fat from suet feeders, and also peanut feeders are a great way to attract a big diversity of birds to your backyard. But we'll get started on some of the different birds that are coming through. Of course, there's goldfinches. So goldfinches will come to the Niger feeders all year round, including the winter time, but they're going to be in their winter plumage or non-breeding plumage. So they're not going to be that bright gold that you might be used to seeing. But they will come to your Niger feeders. And here's a picture of a Niger feeder with our finch blend in it. And our finch blend is a mix of Niger seed and ground up sunflower hearts. So this is a really, really popular blend, not just for the finches, but some of the other birds that we'll see coming up here too. Pine siskins are something that you might find at your Niger feeder also. So pine siskins kind of look like goldfinches because they've got that yellowish color on them, but they have a very sharp bill and they've got a lot more streaking on them. Pine siskins aren't so much as eruptive, I guess I should say, as some of these other birds that we'll see, but they are more common at feeders this time of the year. So here's a map that I just pulled this morning of the most recent sightings in my area, which is Western New York, of pine siskin. And no matter where you are in the country or even in the world, you can pull up these maps also, and you can look by species to see where these birds have been sighted. So this is a map from eBird, and the address of eBird is ebird.org. If you go to explore, you can explore maps based on the species. So I typed in pine siskin at the top of the screen, and then I searched from not all the historical data. I changed the search term to the current year, and then I zoomed in on my area here of the world. So right where my mouse is right here is a bay, which is always a good birding spot. But then you can see there's a lot of lakeshore area, and a lot of these birds will stop along the lakeshore when they're migrating in as their first stop. So that's a really great place to see some of these birds. So this is the pine siskin map, and you can see that there's been lots and lots of sightings of pine siskin. So where the red dots are, that's where they've been seen recently. And if it's a red dot with a flame, that means that they've been seen quite a bit in this area recently. So you can see pine siskins, you've got a pretty good chance of attracting them to your backyard if you've got that Niger feeder out. My haiku box has been picking up pine siskins every day. So they are definitely around. So make sure your Niger feeders are full and they're clean, and you've got a good opportunity to see the pine siskin. House finches are another backyard bird that you might find grouped in with some of these winter finches. So this is the male and female house finch. The male is on the left. They have quite a bit of red on them. But as we're getting into the colder months, you might also start to see purple finch at your feeders. And purple finch, the stripes on the female are more defined than on the female house finch. And the male purple finches are a more raspberry kind of color. So they are a different color. Their bills are bigger. And so you'll sometimes find purple finches coming to your Niger feeders, but you're probably most likely seeing them coming to your black oil, sunflower feeders, and safflower feeders. So be on the lookout for purple finches. And just like the map for the pine siskins, the purple finches are pretty widespread and pretty common. So you have a good chance of seeing purple finches at your feeders this winter too. So this is just a map, again, that I pulled up this morning of all of the purple finch sightings. And then redpolls. So this is a very eruptive bird that is coming down in from Canada into Western New York, at least right now, and other parts of the country too. So the redpolls are known to have feeding frenzies at Niger feeders, which is very exciting. You can also sometimes find them clinging on to pine cones, eating the seeds off of pine cones like this picture here. But this is a picture of that I pulled up this morning of just kind of a map of the redpolls showing where they have been seen also up north into Canada recently. So you can see there were a lot of sightings up in Canada. And just as of this past week or so, we're starting to get them here locally in my area in Western New York. Right along the lake shore, there's been some redpoll activity. So don't be surprised if they start filtering in. We'll keep monitoring these maps and seeing how the movement is. But the redpolls are definitely coming in. This map looked very different a couple weeks ago. There hadn't been any seen around until very recently. So they are starting to come in, and absolutely look for them at your Niger feeders. You've got a good opportunity this year to see the redpolls. Crossbills, so far there haven't been any sightings of crossbills yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if they start to roll in. Not so much a bird you'll find at your bird feeders, but they do come to pine trees. Pine grosbeak. As of a couple days ago, we hadn't had any sightings yet of pine grosbeak, but just like that, one popped up yesterday. So a really good place if you are in the Rochester, New York area to see these migrants that are coming in is Durand Eastman Park on Zoo Road. So that's where the pine grosbeak has been seen. Pine grosbeak do sometimes come to feeders. They'll come to black oil sunflower feeders or safflower feeders. But unless you're really along the lakeshore, you probably won't get them coming to your feeders, but you never know. So keep an eye out. So pine grosbeak are also starting to come in. Really exciting. And then also evening grosbeak. You've got a little bit of a better chance to see evening grosbeak coming to your feeders than you would pine grosbeak. And just like the pine grosbeak or even the cardinal, which it shares its, which it's in the same family of, you can kind of see that resemblance in their big beaks. They love the sunflower seed and the safflower seed and a feeder with a lot of perching room. So evening grosbeaks are starting to be seen also, also at Durand Eastman Park on Zoo Road. And then you can see on this map, there's been some other scattered reports of evening grosbeak. I had my haiku box pick up an evening grosbeak a few times this week. Whether or not it was an evening grosbeak, I listened back to the calls, so little chip calls. I couldn't tell, but they are definitely coming into the area, which is really, really exciting. And then there's other birds that aren't as eruptive as these finches, but you might be seeing a lot of them Some birds are what are called non-eruptive visitors. They do pass through the area pretty regularly, and you can find them pretty consistently. Blue jays will have some migratory moves. You might be seeing lots and lots of blue jays. I've been seeing and hearing tons of blue jays coming to my backyard and to my feeders. They'll eat sunflower seeds. They love peanuts, especially peanuts in the shell. So if you want to give them a treat, peanuts in the shell is definitely the way to go. Red-breasted nuthatch are more of an eruptive bird, though, and they are more common here in the late fall and winter. And they will definitely come to bird feeders. They love peanuts. They like sunflower hearts. They'll come to suet feeders. So they're smaller than your white-breasted nuthatch that you might be seeing more of, but they're definitely around. A great place to get some up-close views of red-breasted nuthatch are going to be Mendon Ponds Park on the Birdsong Trail. If you're feeding the birds right out of your hand, one of those birds that's known to come to people's hands at that park is the red-breasted nuthatch. Mentioned blue jays. They do have seasonal movements, so you might be seeing more hungry blue jays in your backyard. That is also typical. They also do stash their seeds, so they do have food caches. So you might notice that they take a lot of peanuts all at once. They can shove peanuts into the little pouches in their cheeks that they have. So they can take a lot of food at once at a bird feeder, and then they do cache it away for the winter. So you might be seeing some of that activity too. And nuthatches do that same thing. That's how they got their name. Bohemian waxwing. So far, no reports of Bohemian waxwing, but you might be seeing cedar waxwing, especially if you have any kind of plants that have berries on them. So look for the cedar waxwing in any kind of plants you've got in your yard with berries. So definitely cedar waxwings out there. And then also what to look for now under your feeders are going to be things like white-throated sparrow. This is a common bird that will pass through and stay all year long. In some spots, white-throated sparrow definitely are seen underneath feeders. They call quite a bit too, so you might hear them before you see them. But this is a common backyard bird, especially during migration time. Same as white-crowned sparrow, look for them underneath your bird feeders as well. Song sparrow you might even get as they have some seasonal movements, and if they're hungry, they might come to your backyard feeders. And even a fox sparrow, if you see a big chubby sparrow flicking around leaves underneath a tree, could very well be a fox sparrow. And then a very reliable migratory bird is going to be the dark-eyed junco. I've been seeing and hearing lots of dark-eyed junco. Common feeder bird. They love sunflower seeds, sunflower hearts, millet. And if you've got any kind of bird feeders out this winter, odds are you will come across some dark-eyed juncos. If you're out birding or if you've got lots of trees and shrubs in your yard, keep an eye out for the kinglets, both the golden crown kinglets and ruby crown kinglets. Look for them bouncing around in the trees, just like a little warbler would. And then there's birds of prey that'll pass through too. So far, very sparse reports of rough-legged hawk, but rough-legged hawk will come down from the tundra into this area for the wintertime. They're about the same size as the red-tailed hawk. So they can look quite a bit similar, but the rough-legged hawk doesn't have that red tail on it. And if you get a good look at the legs of the rough-legged hawk, you can kind of see how they get their name. They have lots of feathers on their legs that stretch all the way down to their talons. And that's what gives them their name. Those feathers make their legs look rough. So the rough-legged hawk will be coming back into the area, most likely in larger numbers that we're seeing now. You can sometimes, they do have different kinds of coloration, but if you see a big bird of prey that has this nice dark patch on its belly and dark patches on its wings here, on its wrists, that is most likely going to be a rough-legged hawk. But both the red tail and rough-legged hawk will be around all winter long. On the left here is the red-tailed hawk, and on the right is the rough-legged hawk. A smaller hawk, but that you might see gliding over marshes or over grasslands, is going to be the northern harrier. The males are sometimes called the gray ghost because they kind of hover over wide open areas and open grasslands and things like that, farm fields. So the male northern harriers are very gray, and that's the male on the left. And then the females are very brown in color. But what they both share is that bright white patch on their rump. So that's a really good distinguishing characteristic of the northern harrier, and they are around all winter long. In the daytime, you can find northern harrier gliding over fields and marshes. In the evening hours, short-eared owls kind of take over, and they will be soaring over fields. There have been a couple reports of short-eared owls so far this season, with most likely more to come. So short-eared owls will be flowing into the area for the winter months as well. Other birds, if you're looking out in fields, be on the lookout for things like horned lark. And then snowy owl. We haven't had any reports yet of snowy owl, but this is another bird that can be quite eruptive and come into our area for the winter months. So there's usually some reports. Some years we have a very strong snowy owl season. Last year was not very strong, but we'll see what this year brings. So, and then one other bird that you can find very reliably, especially if you're by the water right now, is the long-tailed duck, a beautiful duck that flows into this area for the winter months. Really gorgeous, hard to mistake it for anything else, and there's a lot of them around. If you're along the lake shore at all, the odds are you will come across some long-tailed ducks. There's also so many other birds that will migrate in, things like the snow bunting. We might get purple sandpiper, the saw-whet owls. There's been some reports of little saw-whet owls. So as the season rolls on, we'll keep you informed with what is coming into the area. It looks like I've got a couple comments here. Johnny's saying the purple finches look pink. Yes, they do. They can sometimes look a little variable with their color. And then there's some little emojis, a little owl and a little duck emoji. Yeah, some of these birds, depending on their plumage and how old they are, can look quite a bit different. So a lot of these birds will do partial molts as they're flying through into different areas. They'll molt those feathers, and then before the breeding season, they'll molt the feathers again and have that bright breeding plumage. So if you are out and about and hiking around this weekend, definitely look for some of these migrants that are coming in. It's a very exciting time of the year. I expect over the next few days we'll be getting more reports of these birds coming into the area. So definitely be on the lookout. If you're lucky enough to snap a photo, send it on in. But we will be back on Tuesday with another broadcast. And until then, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.